Did we do it?
We're here. Welcome.
Are we live?
Hello.
Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the Ecosystem Expanded, where we are about to launch an epic new processing horizon for the Q-SYS ecosystem. My name is Patrick Hine.
And I'm Nate McCarrick. And if you have seen any QSC webinars in the past, then you're probably used to something that doesn't quite look like this.
Yeah, I mean, we went to a garage sale and we purchased a Stargate.
Yeah.
And so, we thought, since we missed all of our most loyal and valued customers at Infocom, Nate and I would dress up like we're going to a trade show.
Listen, we just want to present things to you. Yeah. We live for this. We just want to talk about stuff.
That's all we want.
Yeah. So we've brought you to us.
So thank you for joining us. Appreciate you all, especially our valued customers.
Now, some of you, however, may be new to QSC and Q-SYS because of the product that we're bringing today. We realize that this may be a new entry for you. So we'd like to have a poll. If you scroll down, you'll probably find a poll that you can answer that will help us know how many of you already have experience with Q-SYS and how many don't. So just find that information down there, select your answer, and then we'll come back in a little bit and reveal the answer. What a surprise. Ooh, the anticipation is so high.
While you're down there filling out that poll, you're probably going to see an area for Q&A. Obviously, we will not be filling out said Q&A, but we do have a couple special guests that will be filling those out for us. So let me introduce the first one who could not be in studio on the big screen.
Hello, I am Trent Wagner, QSC Audio Product Manager, coming at you from socially distant Colorado. I'll be here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Trent. Trent's being safe in Colorado. This is his baby, so we wish he could be here. But if you need any assistance with deep geek questions, make sure to fill out those Q&As. But we know that there are probably hundreds of you on this stream, so we also have in the black corners of this room, Jason Kelly, who's our product marketing manager, who will also be lending a hand. Jason, go ahead and sound off for us.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Cool.
So if you are here, it is very likely that you have seen one of our teasers that we put out over the last couple of weeks. And we didn't really reveal what we were about to be announcing today. A lot of you kind of freeze-framed those those videos and tried to analyze, oh, what am I looking at there? Is that an input or an output?
You're so excited.
I know. Listen, we're excited to show you. It's some of you got it right. So we're going to reveal that today. If you didn't really need to freeze frame, you could have just sent me $5 via Venmo. That's fine. I would have told you.
No.
I am terrible with secrets. I'll tell you anything.
You should stop talking right now. All right, well, you've waited any longer. You've endured our teaser. Without further ado, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce to you the Q-SYS Core 8 Flex and the Q-SYS Core Nano AV and C processor from QSC. Let's roll that footage. Ta-da!
There it is.
That's it.
You got your answer.
Thanks for tuning in.
We're all done.
We're all done.
See you later.
We've got lots of stuff to talk about, obviously.
Yeah, so this is an expansion of the Q-SYS ecosystem, but it's expanding into a smaller environment. So this is really designed to go into some small installations like corporate, high ed, or healthcare installations like that.
But make no mistake, we have drawn lots of inspiration from the existing core portfolio. In fact, a lot of the conversation around the R&D of this product centered around one of our most popular Q-SYS product, the Core 110. So let's talk about that for a second. Everybody loves the features on the Core 110, but over the last couple months, we've gotten comments like, hey, could you just cut the Core 110 in half? Because, I want to use it in smaller installations. Similarly, those that are familiar with the IO8 Flex looked at that channel count and was like, oh, that's perfect. Can you just make that into a core, stick a brain on that, and sell it to me as a Q-SYS core? And essentially, that in a nutshell is what the Core 8 Flex is.
And then there's other people who love the control engine, who love the processing power, but just don't need those analog connections. And so that obviously is the impetus for the Core Nano.
That's right. We're going to ramble on for about 20 to 25 minutes.
Sure.
If you only remember 4 things, we really hope that you remember these 4 things. We're going to go over them in order. The idea of onboard analog I/O versus network I/O, because that's going to help you choose between those 2 cores. The idea that these are right-sized, however, they are uncompromised in terms of feature sets.
Number 3 is that it's optimized for the connected meeting space. That does not mean that it is reserved for the connected meeting
Correct.
space. This is absolutely valuable in more situations than just conference rooms. In fact, it has some definite applications available in the cinema world. So we actually have another webinar starting next Tuesday, September the 15th, that focuses specifically on how these cores can be useful in a cinema application. So if you're in the cinema world, that might be a great webinar to watch. Not to imply that you should leave right now.
No, you're here.
Yeah.
You're here. You should stay.
Yeah, you're comfortable. You're comfortable. Grab some Cheez-Its, I would guess.
Everybody loves Cheez-Its.
I love
Some
Cheez-Its.
free advertising for Cheez-Its.
You're welcome, Nabisco.
All right. Go ahead, Nate. Finish this off.
And then we also have the importance of reducing the complexity of your systems and improving the scalability of your systems, which means that it will grow with you as your own installation expands. We've got the results from our poll back, and it looks like 82% of you out there currently do have experience with the Q-SYS environment, which is great because everything we're going to talk to you about right now is something that you are familiar with. And then for those of you, the 18% of you who are maybe brand new to us, we'll talk a little bit later about what the Q-SYS ecosystem is. We keep saying those words, and you're like, what? This is just a processor, right? We'll tell you more about what that means at the end.
That's right. That's that 4th pillar. But we're going to go in order. Let's talk about that first pillar first. So analog I/O versus network I/O. There's a couple of essential questions that we need to address and topics we need to cover. First and foremost is what we're calling the networkization of our industry over the last couple of years. So if you think about the Core 110, when it came out, it had lots of analog I/O, 24 to be exact, and that addressed the market that was currently in the market, which was mostly analog endpoints. And since then, we've seen a proliferation of those network endpoints. Network microphones, network loudspeakers, network amplifiers. The market is drifting towards those, so the core processors should address those desires. On a similar note, I think the end customers that are seeing these endpoints in the rooms, particularly in the meeting rooms, are seeing things like those pretty networked microphones that are out of the way and very aesthetically pleasing. So a lot of those endpoints decisions are being driven by our customers, both of which collectively are saying, hey, you should consider network endpoints when you're building your system.
Another thing you want to consider when you're choosing between the 8 Flex and the Nano is the difference between distributed processing and centralized processing. So, as the industry grew up, we often had distributed processing because all of the things in your room had to live in that room, right? So they had to be there. So you had a processor in every single room. Obviously, as processors got more and more powerful, you were able to put that processor elsewhere, and it could drive multiple rooms on the floor so that you could, spread out the investment of that processor in multiple areas. There's a lot of reasons why you might actually have a combination of these as well, a hybrid version where some parts of it are centralized and some parts of it are distributed. But thinking about the way that you are going to be using this core will help you decide which one we're going to end up with.
That's right. So in a nutshell, if you consider endpoints and the manner in which the topology that you're going to distribute that, if your system has a mixture of analog plus network, I'm going to say that the Core 8 Flex is probably the right core for you.
Sure. Or if you're running a small set of rooms or you've got the need for a centralized processor, I'm going to say that the Core Nano is for you. The way that I like to think of it is this. Just ask yourself a simple question. Say, do I need my physical connections? And if your answer is either nah or no, then the Nano is the right core for you.
I wish.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I wish.
I will be here all week.
I wish this wasn't. I wish this was TiVo, and I could have fast forwarded through that for everyone, but it is not. Unfortunately, we are live. All right, so let's talk about the Core 8 Flex and the I/O that it contains. I'm going to step out of the way. We've talked about analog, so those 8 Flex channels can be configured as in points or out points. And in fact, we're quite proud of that. That is a QSC proprietary technology. Right below them are 8x8 GPIO. So again, if you're using those analog channels on a table, for example, and you're using microphones that have LEDs that could be illuminated, those are options with the GPIO. If you're using legacy pieces in your installation that could be controlled via RS-232, 2 of those, which is 1 more than the Core 110, by the way. USB B and C. For those 17% of you that might not know this, the Core can deliver audio and video from the Q-SYS cameras and the process audio from the Core via a universal USB. Going to talk about that one a little bit later. Dual LAN ports, very important for folks that are interested in redundancy or maybe want to separate out their audio from their control on separate LAN ports. You can do that with these cores. And lastly, a USB-A, not just for charging your cell phone anymore. This will help you deliver long streams of HID control over keyboards, mice, whatever you want to extend over the network. That's going to help you do that. Let's talk a little bit about the features that are not so apparent by the physicality of this box. We talked about the onboard channels, but make no mistake, this DSP is not just to live in the room. It can pull 64 by 64 network channels from anywhere on the network. So again, if those pieces are, if you've got a couple pieces that might be living outside the room, you can pull those from the network. If you're using this in a conferencing arena, 8 channels of echo cancellation, super important for clarity in those calls, especially for the endpoint. If you're using these with some of those microphones that are enlisting Dante, this is Dante enabled. 8x8 channels come with this processor. If you need additional channels, you can go up to 32 by 32 with a software license. If you are not using a soft codec application like GoToMeeting or Skype and you're using just regular old VoIP, 2 instances of soft phones that you can do on this processor. And not to mention the fact that it is a full control engine. And that is not to be, I really should have put that bullet somewhere near the top because this is a huge advantage for a processor in this price point. With other competitors, you're really just getting a DSP. This is a full control engine along with everything else that it does as a DSP.
All right, so keep your eye on the back of that chassis. We're going to show you the difference between the 8 Flex and the Nano. There it is. We just scrubbed the left side and it's gone. That's the only difference. It does not have the physical input and output connections or the GPIO. That is it. Everything else is the same. You still have 2 RS-232. You still have network ports. You still have all the USB. You still have all of the features that Patrick talked about, including the control engine. All of that is the same. It's really just the difference between those physical connections. So just like everyone in the last 6 months, the Nano has no physical connection.
Oh, I see what you did there. That's a sad face emoji for me. All right, so 1 pillar down, 3 to go. Let's talk about right-sized, uncompromised. We talked a little bit about network channel counts. Again, this is going to open up a lot of smaller installations. And what this means is a major cost savings for people that are enlisting the Q-SYS ecosystem. We're going to make sure that you are not wasting as many channels if you're not using them. So you're picking the right core for the right job. And we are also fairly certain that this is going to open up Q-SYS for the types of installations that might have been precluded by either cost or fear that Q-SYS is too big for this. Clearly, this is the right channel count, and it's going to be a cost-effective way to get some of these higher-end features that you're used to not having with a normal DSP.
It's worth noting that while this is for smaller installations, it is also literally smaller itself. It is a half-rack unit, which means that it can go into more creative spaces. So if you don't need a rack in the room or a credenza, you can save that money. You can put the mounting brackets, these little biscuits on the bottom of the core itself, and that way it can be mounted onto a wall. It can be mounted underneath the table itself. It could be mounted onto the back of the screen, for instance, and that way you can spend all of your money on the chairs in the room instead of the rack.
Very important.
You got to get good chairs. You can also obviously put it inside of a rack. So rack ears are available. You can put that in a half rack unit, or you can actually take the rack ears and extend them so that you could put 2 half rack units. All of our QSC gear has the same mounting brackets on the bottom side, so you can marry those together with an SPA, with an NV32H, so you can really get the most out of your QSC equipment via that geometry.
That sounds like a good pitch for an ecosystem. More to
What's
come
an
on
ecosystem,
that.
Pat?
Yeah, well, we're not going to cover that just yet. Let's talk a little bit. We said it's the right sized, but I need to be perfectly clear. This is not a watered down version of the Core 110. It is absolutely capable of all of the software-based features that are available in the Core 110. So we're talking paging, BGM, control, you name it. This becomes essential if you're thinking about scaling up, because it means that the moment that you need to scale up, all it is a simple tick box in Q-SYS Designer software, and you can take all of the programming that you've done for your Nano or your 8 Flex and elevate that to the next size core.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the next point, which is optimized for the connected meeting space.
And
now,
guys,
this is optimized for that space.
Oh,
What?
oh,
yeah, I got to interrupt you guys. We got
the voice of God.
We're here.
we have a couple quick questions for you.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what audio recording and playback options?
Certainly. So much like the Core 110F, you can record up to 4 tracks of audio simultaneously, and that could be wave, MP3, FLAC. Same thing with playback. You have up to 16 channels that you can play back natively, and those are stored on a hard drive inside the core itself.
And I'm sorry, I missed that. Did you talk about the license? You can increase with the license?
You certainly can.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I mean, much like the Core 110, if you need more than the default, you can license up to, Jason, 32 channels, right?
32, right.
Yeah, so if you need additional playback, Core Nano, Core 8 Flex will accommodate that with the software license.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more.
Nice.
Do these cores include all of the necessary mounting hardware?
That's a ridiculous question. No, of course not.
We make you pay $3,000 extra for our little mounting screw.
No,
it all comes in the package.
We would not do that. Mounting biscuits, set of rack ears included in the cost, and again, able to be paired with other like-sized QSC products.
Yeah.
Great question. Thanks, Jason.
Great, thanks, guys.
Anything else? No? Good. All right, so back to those the meeting room environment. Keep in mind, a meeting room environment can vary. There's a lot of different sizes of rooms when you talk about what is a meeting room, right? Is it just a single desk with for a Zoom call? Is it it's a huddle room? Is it a corporate meeting room? It could be as large as a training room. There's a lot of variety in there, right? But the one thing they all have in common is the IT department and the integrators really want to make sure that the people in the room have a seamless experience with the technology that gets them to talk to the other side of that phone call, right? So that's the goal, and that is the thing that will be consistent across all of those, is that our feature set is just perfectly tuned to give you that seamless technology experience.
Yeah, let's deconstruct that goal if we could.
Absolutely.
So it first starts with, how do you connect to the soft codec? How easy is this going to be? If you've ever used Q-SYS, you know that we offer a universal option for connectivity to a soft codec. So you basically just connect a USB to any PC that has your WebEx or your Teams or basically any web conferencing application. Single cable delivers all the audio and video required to deliver to that call. Again, Q-SYS is processing all that video, it's processing all that audio, and delivering it via a simple cable. Let's also talk about those web applications themselves. Nearly all of them deliver audio and video or ingest audio and video the same way with USB. So that means that Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, GoToMeeting, BlueJeans, WebEx, I mean, I ran out of space. It basically supports basically all of them. But that doesn't end there. We wouldn't be a good manufacturer if we weren't engineering more integrative ways to interface with these web applications. So we do things like certifications. So for example, Core 110 is already certified for Google Meet. We have on our website a plugin for Zoom Rooms, which allow you to get deeper control integration with Zoom Rooms. And if you've been watching our QSC website and all of our press releases, you know that QSC has partnered with Microsoft, and now we are part of the Microsoft Teams device certification program with the intent on creating solutions for Microsoft Teams. I can't say much more, but if you are acutely interested in Microsoft Teams, I would highly recommend to keep an eye on Q-SYS over the next coming weeks and months.
That sounds like you're saying something without saying something, Pat.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
Sounds like you, yeah.
I feel like if our legal team was in my ear right now,
they'd be very mad.
they'd be very mad. So anyways, pay attention. We've got some exciting stuff coming.
Absolutely.
Let's talk also about the peripherals that go in the room that are specifically designed for the meeting room. So I'm talking about Q-SYS cameras, the amplifiers that are specific for that space, touchscreens, video distribution devices. All of these are native devices in the Q-SYS ecosystems, which means that the integration process is literally a drag and drop operation. And it means that the end result for the end user is more seamless. You know, you're not fully dependent on a highly skilled person that knows every bit of it. We know our pieces better than anybody, so the integration of these pieces has already been figured out for your integrator.
Now, just because we have all of those under our umbrella does not mean that we don't play nicely with other people as well.
That's right.
Obviously, there are times when you will be forced to work with third-party devices that are not made by QSC. I'm so sorry for that. I don't know what villain it was that asked you to incorporate these third-party devices, but no, we play nicely with them. So whether that's going to be integrated with a plugin, which is something that either we author or that manufacturer authors, that allows us to bring that device directly into the software as if it were a native device, or whether you're going to be creating some more complicated coding back and forth using either our visual coding language of the block controller or just digging in deep and getting your Lewis skills up to speed, we can absolutely make those more complicated interactions and communications.
Hey, Nate, we've talked a lot about meeting rooms, and we're going to go over a lot of designs in just a moment. But we kind of want to hear from you guys again, because you've now heard about the basics of what these new cores can do. So I would like you to, again, scroll to the bottom of your screen and find a new poll, which will allow us to gauge where are you thinking that these new cores are going to go? Are they going to go in primarily corporate? Is it hospitality? There's been a lot of focus over higher education nowadays and figuring out how all that's going to work in this new environment. So go ahead, fill that out, and then come back up and join us back for the webinar.
All right, so while you're filling that out, we are going to go through a couple of diagrams that will show you how we might use the 8-Flex or the Nano in some meeting spaces and beyond.
Yes, so let's pull up that first one, if you don't mind, Gary. We're going to go over a medium-sized room first. So those requirements are as follows. So you got a room that needs to accommodate around 8 to 12 people and do a great web conferencing experience. The end user has decided that they're going to go with an analog option for microphones. So those are two to three multi-element microphones. We also have some analog endpoints in terms of the loudspeakers. So some surface mount and some overheads. We want to be able to accommodate both somebody who walks into the room without their laptop and they just want to use the room PC, or they want to bring their own laptop and basically connect to the system in the room. And you want to, obviously, you want to be able to control the room itself. So let's kind of work through what this looks like on the Core 8-Flex, which has analog and network capability. So it seems like the perfect choice for a room like this. Microphones plug directly into those analog flex channels, and then the network pieces obviously just connect to a standard network device. So Q-SYS PTZ camera, single cable delivers the control, the video, and the power. As well, we have a video distribution solution that's going to live in the table. So we're gonna say that there's a rack under the table, which is a pretty popular place to put a rack nowadays. The NV32H plugs directly into the network, obviously, and then its USB plugs into the room PC via its USB and its HDMI, and that BYOD laptop that's sitting over there is going to connect to the NV device as well, and use the available USB port on the Core 8 Flex to deliver that universal audio and video. And of course, you need an endpoint, so you put another one on the back of that display. Now let's put some amplification to those loudspeakers. We are going to use an SPA amplifier from QSC. It is an analog amplifier. It is a very cost-effective way to amplify sound in this room. So it connects directly to that Core 8 Flex and delivers that sound. And of course, Q-SYS control, again, a single cable to deliver that control for the entire room, native and third-party devices.
All right, let's swap that scenario out for another one. Rather than using analog microphones in this scenario, we're going to be using networked microphones up in the ceiling. Now, because all of our devices are now on the network, we can actually pull that core out of the room and put it in the IT closet down the hallway. So here's where the Core Nano comes into play. All of these devices will still be on the network. So all of your video endpoints, your cameras, those are the same way as Patrick described them. They're just routing back to the IT closet. Our touchscreen, of course. But in this case, the SPA series amplifier won't do because we need to get the channels off of the network. I would recommend something like our Aterotech by QSC. The A4 Mio would be a great way to get your audio to your loudspeakers in this scenario. What's nice about this is that all of these devices, again, are networked, which means that the Core Nano can do the work of doing this exact same room a couple more times. So room 1, room 2, room 3 all have the exact same devices, but they're all managed by the processing that's taking place in the Nano elsewhere down the hall.
Let's talk about one of the, what we're going to call a high-value specialty room. This is a pretty special room at QSC. This is our divisible space is probably the most used space in normal times. Our room gets reconfigured like 3 to 4 times a week easily. And it's got a couple of air walls that are used to divide this room. You're going to need a lot of network pieces in each of these divisions. So I think that the Core Nano is probably the right space for this, especially if you look at that lectern over there. The lectern, obviously, you want to be able to plug your laptop and get to any of those screens. And you want to do so with a single network cable. So all of that stuff is running to a singular switch. And then if that podium gets moved in or out, depending on what you need, you just plug into a single network jack to deliver that. And then, basically, the pre-configured air walls kind of do the rest of the logic. So the Core Nano is going to see those air wall triggers and reconfigure all of the audio and video for the room automatically.
Let's look again at a non-meeting room space. Again, optimized but not reserved for a meeting room. So here's a lecture hall in a higher education environment where you're going to have some networked inputs and outputs, but there are also some need for analog. Like the presenter is going to have a microphone, and that's just got a connection on it. So you're going to need, in this case, the Core 8 Flex so that you can manage the processing for the entire room, get in all those network signals, but also give yourself a couple of analog options as well.
One more space outside the meeting room let's talk about. It's a large sports bar. We all kind of know how these spaces work. They're, the prime draw is that large sports bar that has lots of different screens and a lot of different audio that are associated with them, and the need to distribute that audio in very specific ways. So in addition to the BGM zones that you're delivering, you need to make sure that when the bartender touches that touchscreen, that the audio is associated with the right video and it's going to the right place. So it sounds like we've got some analog coming in from those cable receivers. We've got BGM audio. So Core 8 Flex is the the core for you. And that's finished off, obviously, by a larger networked amplifier. So we recommend CXQ because, again, a very simple integration and a high level of monitoring high level of monitoring abilities with a native device like the CXQ.
So we've got the results from the poll in. So it looks like 65% of you would be looking at using these cores in a corporate environment, which is actually, like we're talking about, just down the line, what it's made for. And then the other third of you, for additional purposes, it looks like exactly what we've been describing.
Yep. All right, so we are almost there. This last bit is going to be for those that are not fully aware of the Q-SYS ecosystem. We are going to do a deep dive on how you can remove complexity and increase the scalability of your system by engaging the Q-SYS ecosystem. So I would say that those folks that already know this, just enjoy, because this part is for the new folks.
That's right. So if you think about the history of the industry and how we got to where we are now, once upon a time, you had different manufacturers that were very specialized and good at very specific things. So you had one manufacturer that was very good at creating the video section. Another manufacturer really good at audio. Someone else who's good at control. But then a fourth person had to come in and make all of those different devices actually talk to each other. And that was a lot of programming. It was a lot of work. These devices weren't necessarily designed to talk to each other. And it was kind of a waste of the programming time that could be spent on giving your users a better experience instead. So if we rethought that scenario and tried to think it from scratch, what would be a better solution? Well, obviously the better solution would be to have one company that makes all of that. So that's what Q-SYS and the ecosystem is. It's audio, video, and control, all integrated under one hood, so that the devices are designed to work with each other, so that you are not experiencing that difficulty of programming.
We talked a lot about how it works under the hood, but let's talk about the Q-SYS ecosystem in terms of a single solution manufacturer. If it hasn't become abundantly clear, QSC does more than create great processors. We make loudspeakers, amplifiers, video endpoints, control engines, switches, remote monitoring and management. By the way, if for all those 89% of you have not tried Q-SYS Reflect Enterprise Manager, I encourage you to do that. There's a free trial going on right now. The reason I'm trying to overemphasize the idea of a single manufacturer is that when our amplifier team works with a loudspeaker team, they know how to drive those components to their fullest. That's not to say that you can't use other components with the ecosystem. Nate already talked about control. But what if you could simplify so much of that effort and ensure that that amplifier, for example, is running so much better? And what if, rather than going through 15 different steps to get that third-party amplifier into the system, you could literally drag and drop a single block and get more monitoring and management of that amplifier than you can ever get with a third-party amplifier. That's just one example of how the ecosystem, if you engage it to its fullest, you're going to get a better system. It's going to be a cheaper system to integrate, and it's going to be a better system for that end user.
Also worth noting that the system will grow with you, so it will scale as your installation scales.
Yeah, so if you are using these cores to dip your toe into the ecosystem and your installation grows from one size to a larger size, know that when you need to ramp up to the next size core, because these cores are built on the same IT infrastructure as the rest of the portfolio. It uses the same control engine. And by the way, there's only one software suite to learn for the entire ecosystem. That's the smallest installation to the largest. It becomes quite clear that scaling into your own and into the needs of those end customers is fully capable in Q-SYS.
And of course, when it comes time to learning that software, you get to learn from two of the ugliest mugs you will ever see. I apologize deeply for the amount of time you will have to stare at our faces.
I'm not that ugly.
I would say you're a solid 2.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk real briefly on the inflection points between these cores. Gary, if you could throw that up on the screen. This is a chart that will be available in your email tomorrow. We're going to send you a link to the website, and you'll be able to use this chart to make decisions just beyond the Core Nano and Core 8 Flex. I think we all know the difference between these two pieces, but if you're new to the ecosystem and you want to choose between the cores based on an installation type, you can do so. Or if you know exactly what you're looking for and you're just looking for a side-by-side comparison of all of these features, you can do so as well. Yeah, it's the difference between knowing what you want and just kind of browsing around based on your installation type.
So let's see if we have any other questions, because I think that we are all done.
Yeah.
Jason, you got anything for us?
Yeah, we have one more that came up a couple times. So when you're using the USB-B or USB-C for AV bridging,
yes.
Can you actually use those inputs simultaneously?
No.
Did they say why you would want to do that? Huh.
You just want 2 cables coming out of your laptop
Just
into
want
the same device?
redundant
you can
cables.
do it over 1 cable. You don't need, you can tape the cable together, I suppose. No, only one of those would be active at a time. If you do have both plugged in, I believe would default to B, would be the connection that it defaults to, but only one of those bridges would be active.
Yep. Any other queries?
That's it. Lots of other great suggestions for future products, but today is really just about these 2 new cores. So.
Well, we don't mind a little.
You're saying the core doesn't yet make a sandwich, and I agree.
We're gonna put that on the list. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm gonna plug one training piece. If you enjoyed the diagrams specifically, and you're not a super technical person, but you want to still learn a little bit more about the individual components of the ecosystem, there is a great new course called Q-SYS Architect. It's actually being given by one of our colleagues in the UK, and I believe that's in the next 2 days or so. So I would encourage you to go on our training website, learn a little bit more, and then go to qsc.com/UK, since that's where James is, and that's where that schedule of classes is. Join it. It doesn't matter if you're not in the UK. They'll basically take anybody. Yeah. And again, a great course for those that don't know Q-SYS very well.
If you're brand new to the ecosystem, that is for you for sure. Doesn't even get into the software too.
Yeah. That's all we have. We're going to leave the chat open for just a little bit longer. If you guys want to communicate with either Jason or Trent, or you just want to make me feel better about being a 2, you can do so.
It's going down now.
Aww.
1.5.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.